for
Oh God, can you imagine?
Yeah, and we are live. Welcome
Greetings.
to the show. How do you feel?
London, New York. So you had an interest. While the millions flood in from around Billingsgate, you had an interesting. You were playing groupie, weren't you, to old George Best's son last night?
Yeah, I went to see a talk by Callum Best, which is sort of slightly random thing to do. I've always found Callum Best a slightly interesting figure over the last sort of couple of decades, because for people who don't know, Callum Best was George Best's son. George Best, massively famous footballer in the UK, and he played for a team in America for a while as well, didn't he? Anyway, his son is this.
Did he? Okay.
They had it, yeah, because they tried to introduce soccer, as they call it, into the US, and it sort of bombed. But George Best was on a team in California for a while, and Callum Best was born there while he was playing for that team. But anyway, so Callum is his son, and Callum Best was always sort of like, he's a good-looking guy. He was very famous sort of in the early 2000s as a sort of womanizer kind of character, I suppose. Reality TV show star, did a little bit of modeling, all this kind of, nothing very consequential, you know, and probably never really reached, well, certainly never really kind of professionally reached anything like what his father had done. But he was on TV all the time. He had an affair with like Lindsay Lohan and stuff like that. He was, you know, quite in the newspapers all the time back in the day. People doing exposés on him and stuff. His
affair is in he was married or she was married.
Oh, I don't know. Sorry, I just maybe he banged Lindsay Lohan is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's we mentioned him. Yeah, speak about the talker, then we can talk about him.
So anyway, famous guy, fairly sort of light and sort of reality TV show type career. But his Instagram now, he's got a big Instagram, and he's really jacked now. He's been going to the gym for a long time, really jacked, loads of tattoos, very good looking guy still, although he's at 45, all the rest of it. So all the ladies loved him. But I went to his talk just to sort of see what he had to say, really, because I got a free ticket. And he was very like charismatic, actually, was my main takeaway. Very charismatic, actually quite humble, really gave everybody like the time of day. Seemed like, I spoke to him at the end, I just said, "Oh, thanks, man, that was great." Shook hands with him, and he looked me in the eye and he said, "Yes, thanks, man." And he said, "How are you doing?" And he seemed to really mean it. I'm sure he didn't give a fuck, but you know what I mean? It seemed like he really meant it. And then I said, we had a back and forth, and I said, "Anyway, yeah, great to meet you, man." And he said, thanks for that, mate. Really, thanks for that." And he was looking at me in that way. And again, whether it's put on or it's not, it almost doesn't matter, because he was looking at me in that way as if the fact that I'd said thank you to him was actually meaningful to him. You know what I mean?
Right.
But at the same time, he was very good speaker, actually, very alpha. He was absolute confidence, able to hold the room, decent voice, you know, resonant, quite high volume voice. So it was interesting, not so much what he had to say, but it was interesting just watching him work the room, really.
Yeah, interesting. So the present thing, my mate a friend of mine was on Necker Island, Richard Branson's island. He said the same thing. He said when he was speaking to him amongst the group, it seemed like it was almost this bubble. We talk about the love bubble when you're speaking to a girl one-on-one.
Yeah,
it's really just you and him speaking to Richard Branson. He said the same thing. It goes, it didn't matter. All kind of, you know, status is removed. It's like, no, you're in the moment. And that's complete focus. And apparently Clinton does a similar thing. There's a book called The Charisma Myth by Olivia Carbane-Smith. And she says it's a learned skill, presence, power, and warmth. And we all have them in different. She uses celebrity examples as we have them in different categories. But yeah, it's very engaging, because ultimately we're all bored alone and we're all kind of operating alone, and we want to be listened to. And when someone actually seems to give a fuck about what we've got to say, it's very engaging, isn't it?
Yeah, and by the way, if you do this kind of thing on a date, that's really how you start to draw her in, isn't it? You know, I mean, obviously, if man to man, you know, this guy's doing it to me, that's not the intention. But if he was doing similar to that on a date, but raising the flirtatiousness of it, I can see why he was so successful as, you know, somebody who dated a lot and partied a lot in his younger days. Because, you know, I mean, I was in the love bubble with him, let alone some girl that he's on a date with. You know what I mean?
It was one of the early stories from the guy who blew up in the UK after the game was released. Neil Strauss released the game. It was a massive thing in 2007 in the US. One of the early adopters in the UK, a guy called Richard Laruna. And me and Troy have a few friends in common with him. I've spoken to him a few times. He did very well marketing a company called PUA Training. He was under the stage name Gambler. One of his early famous stories was he was dancing with two girls in a club, and actually Callum Best came and stole the girls away, and it was the lure of status. He did nothing other than go, "Do you know who I am?" to the two birds when Rune was, and they just went, "Who?" And it was Callum Best, and they just went, "Oh, okay then." And he was like, "Come with me," and they were like, "Oh, okay then." And that was
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean,
but go ahead.
You can't beat status for sure. And I mean, there was a time. I guess he's less famous now. There was a time when he was on TV a lot. He was in the newspapers, which was a big thing, a lot. And yeah, he had that pulling power because of his status. And
he was known for fucking women on TV shows. He was kind of the it boy. So that fuels into it. Whenever you meet girls, they're thinking, oh well, yeah, I've seen him be, with some hot girls in the tabloids. Right, I'm gonna fuck him. That's how the female brain works with this stuff, and it annoys a lot of men, but it's just reality.
Yeah. But I would say that even if he didn't have that, I think he would still have been successful. Maybe not as successful, but I think he would still have been successful the way that he was coming across. So you've got to kind of, I think with all famous people, because if ever, it's really difficult because we mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio the whole time and people just say, yeah, he's famous, he's got status, which is absolutely
21 second in, but we've had a sabbatical from him. That's been a few days, hasn't it? Okay.
Which is absolutely true. But at the same time, you've got to try and separate the fame from the people and look at them. I mean, there are some people like Bill Gates. Could he get laid? I mean, probably, but would he be able to if he wasn't Bill Gates? Probably not. But then there are these other characters who you can see, okay, even away from the fame, they've definitely got something going on.
So it adds actually leverage because then they've got the draw of the fame, and then they've got the actual in-person, values that would draw a woman in anyway. So they're actually more powerful in a way.
Yeah.
There was interesting with him. There was we discussed him a while back. I think we're traipsing around Poland, and I think you just seen it was jacked on Instagram, and we were talking about him, but we were saying actually David Dada of all people would probably say he's quite unhappy and unfulfilled, and I think he's probably he went down a torrid path, didn't he, and came back to sobriety. But the point he makes in the Way of the Superior Man book is if you don't outgrow your father, not big a knob, but just surpass him in terms of skill or value or talent or fame, you feel existentially unfulfilled, don't you?
Yeah, well, that was one of the key thing that I always found quite interesting about him, because I thought you've got this massive legacy of your father, who was one of the greatest footballers, and you've sort of
and a slayer in his own right as well. He was a massive womanizer and party lad in his own right,
And you've inherited maybe the looks but not really the footballing skill, not really anything else. And you're kind of famous, been on a few shows and stuff, but it doesn't all amount to very much. And I think I imagine that was quite difficult for him. I mean, he did touch on that a little bit in the talk. I think that was quite difficult for him, but it does seem like now he's kind of moved out of that. And he's got his own thing going on, but he's quite into the wellness stuff. He's quite into journaling, into meditation, all of this kind of, sound bars, all of this stuff. So I guess a combination of that, it really helps you to center yourself.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Anyway, so the millions have flooded in from around the world. We can begin, which is, and on our stream today, we have the moment most men freeze when they see a beautiful woman. So we've got, as usual, some carefully crafted key points, and we shall see what we can do with them. So point number one, the 3-second window, the critical moment is right after you notice her. In those first few seconds, you either move, hesitate, or overthink. If you hesitate, your brain starts producing excuses like, she's probably taken, this isn't the right moment, it would be weird, she's too fat, she's too thin, her tits are too big, her tits are too small. The brain will just think of any excuse, won't it, to allow you to not to approach. And this is where the opportunity dies. We've got to see that resistance as, I like the idea of gamifying resistance. So the more resistance you feel to doing something, or that your brain feels to doing something, the more growth you get from that thing. Now, when we see a hot girl, the natural thing is there's a lot of resistance from the brain. But actually, because we never feel it with a girl we're not attracted in, we should be seeing that as actually move towards that, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
How often do you see that as a problem with clients you teach? You went out recently and taught in London. Was it a problem for that client?
It was actually, and I think I think it's a big problem that happens a lot. I mean, I was with this guy. Well, he was very new in the journey for a start, and he was very worried about spotlight effect and everything else. And you know, we were wandering around looking for sort of opportunities, and I saw one girl sitting down in Covent Garden, just sitting on her own. Pretty easy kind of a situation to walk up and just ask a question or say something, you know. And he was pulling back. He's like, no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And he obviously thought she was quite attractive, but he was just had that thing. So I was just like, okay, right. So I just walked up to her and just said something. I mean, I just asked a question or something, and she responded really well. And he'd been worried because he was like, oh, but there's some people. Sorry, we're going into spotlight effect here a little bit, but he was, you know, there's some people like, a little bit near. What about that? And I was just, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Just go in and talk to her and see what happens. And obviously, we had a little interaction, and it was absolutely fine, you know? So, yeah, I think those excuses, they do pop up, and it's all different kinds of things. It's all the things you mentioned about what does she look like, am I in her league and stuff, but it's also, oh, who's nearby? Oh, is that guy there going to kill me because I've talked to her? And there's all this stuff, and you've just got to kind of block that out.
And you have to go fast, because we've all had it where we follow the girl a bit because it's not an opportune moment. Maybe she's about to cross the road and you're like, I'll wait till she gets across the lights. And then you follow her a bit longer, and then, you know, there's people in the way, and you end up following her for 50, 100 meters. And actually you start feeling weird, and state transference is very real. It's like a virulent STI. So when you do finally stop her, you're feeling anxious, and that's exactly how she feels.
Well, I've got the classic story that I've told before, I think, but this client in Warsaw, and he saw a girl that he liked, and she was, you know, in Zloty Tarasy, in the famous shopping mall, and she was just about to, she was walking towards the escalator, and he was like, I don't know, I don't know, and then she got on the escalator, and so then he was like, okay, I'm gonna go and talk to her. So he got on the escalator behind her. But unfortunately for him, she was going right to the top floor. So he went up. There's about 5 escalators. So he goes up 5 escalators behind her, waiting for that moment when he can finally talk to her. And then all the way at the top, they reach the floor where there's the food court. And right at the top, obviously she comes off the escalator. There's no more escalators. And he goes, oh, hi, I thought you looked really nice. And she goes, yeah, sorry, I've got a boyfriend. So the point is that if you're going to get blown out, you might as well get blown out fast, because he had to go up 5 floors with this girl to be told that she had a boyfriend. Whereas if he just got up to her as soon as he'd seen her, it would have happened then and then done and dusted, you know?
There's also a certain authenticity you can't fake if you just see the girl and immediately take action that she can feel. Yeah. Because it is, you have just seen her, it is in the moment. She can feel that kind of almost fight or flight response from you. And it doesn't mean it's nervous energy, but it's authenticity in the moment. And she goes, yeah, she can just feel it. And you can't fake that. When you follow them, you start feeling weird. You start overthinking it. They feel what you feel, right? Whereas if you just jump in, it's way better, because it's before your brain has given you reasons to not do the rep. So super key is, if you're unable to train this, get in touch, because this is the first part, the first brick in the wall, as old Pink Floyd would say. We get you to just pull that trigger muscle as quickly as possible, and it's a learned skill to do that. See girl, take action. You know, just move your feet before you've got something to say. You can have some stock openers if you want. You know, you don't use the Dr. Silk. How does it feel to be stopped by me? But you'd say, like, just hey. Even hey, authentically after 1 second, you caught my eye. Yeah, is better than like following her for a minute and then going like some contrived, oh, I had to tell you something really quick, because it's the vibe in the moment is not authentic anymore. So the quicker the better for everyone concerned. Point number dos, as Bonaparte would say. By the way, the world's sleaziest sex coach, Mr. Bonaparte, is joining us for a live stream. When are we doing that with him?
We could do it tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow. He's going to be talking about all things sex.
Trebian.
The brain interprets social risk like physical danger. Point number 2, your nervous system reads approaching an attractive stranger as a threat scenario. Common reactions: adrenaline spike, heart rate increase, mental blanking. This is the same stress response people get before public speaking. So the freeze response isn't weakness, it's biology misfiring. You don't need to attach a story to it as well. It's like, okay, yeah, adrenaline in my body. I see that as fuck, I'm into this girl. Because again, you never feel it in the body if you don't actually think she's attractive. If it's like a Mr. M's finest or, whatever, she blunders past, you don't get your tranquilizer darts out because you're not actually attracted to her. Whereas
unless you're Mr. M.
Unless you're Mr. M. Whereas if it's a lesser spotted Magda with a crack addiction wandering past Troy, he lights up. But that's the body responding, going on a visceral level. I want to mate with that lesser spotted Magda with a crack addiction.
Yeah. They've got to be into the crack, man. I think it's...
Would you actually date, now you're sober and clean living, would you date a girl with a drug problem, or would you actually rule her out?
I think if she was actively using, it would be tricky because it's just a lot of chaos that comes with that,
Yeah,
so
it makes you flaky as well. From going through my cocaine days, I was so, and I'm sober now. I'm not saying never go back to things, but also not really drinking. You realize how flaky you are when you're on.
I mean, it's not because of any sort of moral judgment on it. It's just that it also depends. I mean, would you casually see them? Maybe, but anything more than that, I think would just be not great, to be honest.
I'd agree.
And also, it's a risk for you as well, because if you're trying to stay off it, if you're trying to stay clean, and then you're intimately entwined with somebody who's using the whole time, I mean, it's not going to take much to tip you over the edge, is it?
You're putting yourself back in harm's way, definitely.
Yeah.
Number 3, the spotlight effect. So this is kind of what you touched with the client earlier, which is a massive thing for guys. And it's fair enough. Like, we do care. All of these things can be traced back. Why have I got these things? Why do we all suffer from these things? It's all, if you really want to understand the cheat codes for this, is study a bit of evolutionary psychology, because it tells you why. I mean, this is tribal, right? Because if you you're being seen by the rest of the tribe. Now, obviously that's outdated because you can be anywhere in the world. There's 6 billion, 7 billion people. You have unlimited opportunities with this, but you're still slave to the same outdated programming. So the spotlight effect.
Slave to the rhythm.
Most people believe everyone is watching them. They imagine people are judging, the woman reacting badly, the interaction being awkward. In reality, most people barely notice. Strangers forget within seconds. The pressure exists mostly in your own head. It's so true, because how often do you step over in a street, a crackhead or a tramp, right? Not smelling great. And you're like, oh, in the moment. And then 1 second later, you've forgotten them, right? So why on earth do you think the world is watching you approach a random woman and say hello, right? Yeah. It's not. But we have this tendency, psychological narcissism, we have a tendency to just assume that all human beings can see our lives as we see them because we're the main character, and also give a fuck. But they don't. They're all trapped in their own realities. They're all the center of their own universe. So actually, if you can, again, train yourself to realize people don't give a shit, it's very freeing.
Yeah. Is there an argument, though, sometimes to just be a little bit circumspect about what the situation is? Because sometimes, there's a girl who's standing there and maybe she is waiting for somebody. Maybe she is waiting for the boyfriend or those people who are vaguely around her. Maybe that is her family, right? So there can sometimes be an argument for, I don't know, just hanging back a tiny bit, can't there, to figure out, right, what are the logistics here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think women are very conscious of how they're perceived, should we say, socially.
Yeah.
So you don't want to embarrass her. You need to be calibrated. So if you're in a coffee shop, if you are traveling around and wanting places to approach, they're lucrative opportunities. Coffee shops, often hot girls bored on laptops doing fuck all. But there's a way of going about it. You don't storm into the coffee shop and, in front of everyone shout, "Oh, you look great," and blah, blah, blah. You make it very subtle. So you find a way to go and maybe sit near her or crouch down beside her and put in the equation we talk about straight from Terraria's playbook, right? The elephant in the room. So call it out. Look, I know you're busy working, but I was just leaving. I just wanted to say hi, see her reaction. Is she high interest? Carry on. Is she low interest? Leave. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's something to be said for that. Do you think, though, that beginners should just blunder through? Because there's a tendency, if they delay and start assessing the circumstance, they're just going to fucking not do the approach, because of the spotlight effect is more powerful in the beginning of this journey.
I think probably on balance, blundering through is probably the best way to is probably the best way to go. I mean, because the problem is that people who haven't experimented with this a lot they'll overestimate risks. So they'll look at a situation and there's some guy standing like, I don't know, several meters away looking at a shop window who's not even clearly not anything to do with the girl in question. And then he'll be like, no, because what about that guy? And it's like, that doesn't really matter. That's not a big risk, you know? So you've got to be able to sort of, if you're seeing everything as like, oh my God, that's the spotlight effect trigger, then that you need to just break through that, you know, and just take some risks and make some mistakes maybe sometimes. And generally speaking, I mean, 9 times out of 10, even if she is with her boyfriend or she is with a family member or something like that, all it takes normally is just look, oh, sorry, man, I didn't realize, and then just get the hell out of there. It's not usually this cataclysmic thing, is it?
The world forgets, doesn't it? It keeps spinning. And I mean, I can't think of any approach I've had. It's almost funny as well. You look back and you're just like, whatever. Yeah. It's just in the moment, it seems like a massive thing because you just, again, but being aware of it is the first step. So be aware that there is a spotlight effect in crowded spaces, but you can desensitize through that. I went through a stage of being like very scared of approaching on tube platforms. So I would begin every day game session in London at Holborn Station with a tube approach, and I'd end it with a tube approach. And it is a bit tense because you are standing there waiting for the tube and people can hear the conversation. But again, it's interesting because a lot of people, men are kind of, you see them. I've been stopped before actually after stopping a girl on the tube because I left, and the guy was like, "Oh, how'd you do that? That's awesome," because I got the number of a hot girl. And I've seen women kind of look over and smile as well, as if to say, "Oh, fuck, I wish I had that done to me," right?
Yeah,
I wish I had a guy approaching me because it plays into if you think about the masculine, right, action taking. Most men, let's be honest, they don't want to be sitting there gooning, right, with 19 porn tabs open. Right, they want to be fucking approaching hot women in real life and fucking them, right? So that's the way to do it. I mean, and most women want to be approached that way as well.
Yeah, I mean, the other side of it is sometimes people do look, and sometimes people do, you know, make a comment or something. But I mean, in the end, so what, really? Because you're never going to see them again unless you're living in the archetypal tiny American village with 250 people, and then obviously it's a bit of a problem. But I mean, in general, if you're in a big city or you're traveling or whatever, even if people do look a little bit, they're going to have forgotten it by the afternoon anyway, and who cares? That's I think another thing to think about.
Well, a woman I dated for a bit, who was an absolute legend, I met in Liverpool Street Station. I was standing there and I approached near the ticket barriers, and there were 2 chavs very close, and they immediately started elbowing each other, being like, "Look at this fucking retard," you know, that kind of sniggering right next to where it was. And I saw her notice, and she suddenly then, after noticing it, became incredibly keen to have the conversation with me, and was like, "Yeah, take my number, blah blah blah." We carried on. They kind of almost got a bit pissed off and fucked off, and I was like, she was like, "Oh, thank God they fucked off." Like, absolute bellends. I was like, so you actually, she wanted to fuck them over. She wanted to piss them off because she respected the fact I fucking approached her. She was like, yeah, you've done the right thing. You know, we kind of we bonded over that instance. But I was like, she's done me a solid there because she didn't like the cut of their jib. So she jumped in and deliberately made it very easy for me, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Next point number 4, overthinking kills action. How often is overthinking the bane of our existences? Let's be honest.
100%. 100%.
I mean, it's all pain is psychological, isn't it? All pain apart from death is psychological, and it's all our own. It's all up here. I mean, it's not the same for anyone else. You know, we see clients constantly tie themselves in knots when there's nothing actually wrong because they've just got all these internal mind games going on, right? These weird states for success and failure.
Well, people do get very in their heads to a point, and we are much more critical of ourselves than other people are, because I mean, like we've talked before about situations where we're probably not looking our best, we're probably not dressed particularly well, your hair's not in place, whatever, and you go in and do an approach, and you know, the girl's really receptive, and maybe you end up dating her or seeing her again, right? So, but guys will get very in their head. Like, we working with this other client who'd been in Latin America, and he was saying, "Oh, you know, I'm a bit sweaty," and you know, worried because he, you know, not feeling great and thought he wasn't looking too great and everything. And it's like, well, it like you're being super critical of yourself because you look at yourself every day in the mirror and you can see these micro things. Most people are just like, the women that you interact with, they're not really going to see that. They're going to take in the bigger picture, you know?
Yes, 100% agree.
They're not. It's not. They're not really like. I mean, yeah. Obviously, I know we bang on all the time. Yeah, you know, dress well, get a suit, all this kind of thing. But to be honest, if you're in your gym clothes, you know, and your hair's not in place, and you haven't had a shower yet, you can still go and talk to somebody. She's not going to judge you on that. It's about the energy. It's about the vibe. In general,
there seems to be a lot. That seems to be a real killer for guys, isn't it? A lot of guys will say it's the one outfit they don't approach him is gym clothes. Whereas actually, I think it's completely fine. Like, why wouldn't you approach wearing gym kit unless you're wearing some really odd gym kit, like Freddie Mercury on stage? Like one of our clients does bright lycra. It's like, why wouldn't you say hello? You know.
Well, the solution to that is maybe get some better gym clothes, because like now, look, you could spend loads of money, or you can actually get quite cheap versions, but there's a lot of very cool looking gym wear, isn't there, out there, you know? So that's the other thing. So then you're ready to go.
I think gyms are, I've said this before, but I think gyms are massively underrated for approaching. I do a lot of approaching in gyms, either during the gym or before the gym or after the gym, because there's always hot girls in gyms and no one speaks to them. And the endorphins are flying through their body as well as mine. So you're in a kind of hyped up state, and it's just say a comment and see where it goes. You'd be surprised how, especially Latin America, where people are women are quite sexual anyway. You're in that kind of environment where the endorphins are flying. It's often high levels of receptivity.
Yes.
Point number 4, anyway, overthinking kills action. Once the internal dialogue begins, action becomes harder. Thoughts like, what should I say? Is this the right moment? What if she rejects me? The longer you think, the less likely you are to act. Confidence only comes after action, not before it. So, the internal dialogue, the longer you take to approach, the more the internal dialogue is going to spike up. You're right, though, Troy. There are some circumstances where it's just you're waiting for that right moment. You have to wait. She's about to leave a table of people she's in to walk away. Maybe she's glanced at you. Yeah, absolutely the right time to do it is after she leaves the table, not during. So you have to be, this is where calibration comes in.
I mean, it's amazing that you sometimes need to explain this stuff. And this is where you realize there's a lot of nuances in this stuff that we don't even think about anymore. But like, I was in a store with a client the other day, and we saw this quite attractive woman, but she was not being served. She was like, there was a store assistant who was helping her choose some makeup or something like that. And I was like, well, obviously now's not a good time. And it's not because, yes, you've got to seize the mantle. You've got to sort of, you know, go in there when the opportunity's there. But at the same time, it's a little bit weird, isn't it? She's being advised on, oh, well, there's this one or there's that one. Oh, I think this would suit you better. And then you rock up and go, oh, excuse me, I just want... I think are you French? I mean, it would just look a bit fucking weird, wouldn't it? So you've got to use your common sense with this stuff.
Often it's when the girl's not by us. It's when the girl's by herself. It's not when she's engaged in a different activity. Yeah. Sometimes you do have to take your chance, though. It's going to be an awkward situation. You just sense you're not going to see this girl again because you rarely do. But also you sense there's not going to be a better opportunity, and she is really your type. You just got to take the shot. I remember one girl I dated from Rio. She was from a different state in Brazil, but I met her during Rio Carnival. I'd walk past her, very much my type, you know, slender, big hands, huge Adam's apple, deep voice, you know, classic trans. But she was actually, you know, genuinely my type. And I just thought, right, I'm never going to see her again. She was sitting at a table with like 6 people, mixed group, but she glanced at me. So I was like, right, I waited for one of her friends to leave, so there was a space next to her, and I just bowled in, and I didn't try and address the group, you know, do any of the mystery method stuff. I was just like, directly, hey, nice to meet you. She was really receptive, you know, quickly got the number, looked up. A few of them were kind of smiling at me, so kind of said my hellos, whatever. But if I hadn't taken, and it developed into, you know, seeing her for about 6 months on and off. So, so in hindsight, you're like, fuck, I'm glad I did it. But the more quote unquote social pressure is, the harder, the more resistance you're going to feel. But if it is your dream girl, just give it a fucking shot. This is how there's an asymmetrical upside, isn't there? Because realistically, as long as you're not a total retard and you've totally misread the situation, she's got some huge boyfriend with a knife waiting beside her, which, again, if you're just able to look at the situation, you can see, right, they're not holding hands. They don't look like a couple. It's an asymmetrical upside. You can only win occasionally. You can't really lose. The only loss is, oh, it didn't go anywhere.
right? Yeah, exactly. No, you're absolutely right. But each situation needs to be taken on its own merits.
Yes, 100%. Point number 5. Rejection is exaggerated in men's minds. This is so key because rejection is the mind killer. You know, it's that kind of quote from the movie Dune. Fear is the mind killer, but if we just change the word fear for rejection, it's so ego triggering for men, especially when you first begin this stuff. I think men are just naive and just think they're going to get every girl, or they just don't realize rejection is just a stepping stone to it's feedback from the universe. It's a stepping stone to get better. But men often imagine rejection as humiliating, but most real world conversation outcomes are mild. Polite conversation, short interaction, neutral response. Even rejection is usually brief and forgettable. Your brain exaggerates the consequences. Did you have any? Was it something you struggled with in the early days, or were you always just like, "Fuck it, I'm so horny, I'm just gonna"?
I think. Well, I think when I was like a teenager, you know, I think I wouldn't ever approach anybody or try to push anything forward at all because I thought rejection would be such an terrible, horrific thing that I just was, oh my God, you know, it's gonna destroy me. And then when I did my sort of personality flip and then I realized actually it wasn't. And most of the time, it's not even that brutal or anything. It's normally just like, yeah, I've got a boyfriend or, you know, whatever. I'm not looking to date at the moment or something like that. And that's kind of it, really. So, yes, it can sting a little bit because the subtext seems to be, oh, I'm not choosing you. But, I mean, really, so what? It's not like the number of really horrific rejections I've had. I mean, I can't really even remember that many, to be honest. I mean, I think it's very, very small. Generally speaking, it's just a small conversational thing. They'll usually say they've got a boyfriend or whatever. And it's like, okay, fine. You know, you're not going to die, are you?
I almost got blinded, but it wasn't directly from, I mean, it was a rejection, but off the back of that, it was a guy getting involved in a ski resort. I got glassed and very close to being blinded, actually. I still have small scars here. But again, the actual rejection from the girl was just like, oh, she didn't even say anything. I think she was just still smiling. And then it just kind of developed into this thing. Not necessary to tell that story because guys will be like, oh, fuck, so that's the consequence. It's not. I've approached thousands of women and there's been no bad thing other than, again, if you've built it up too much in your head, that's where the pain exists. Because you projected forward this story of, oh, we're going to get married, have kids, the sex is going to be amazing. And you roll up to her because she's looked at you and she's like, oh, I've got a boyfriend. And then all the pain is not, it's just psychological in your head. It's not actual physical pain. Yeah. So, yeah, we do overthink rejection. I think if you have ADHD-like tendencies, we do have a rejection sensitivity. So I've been, you know, in the early days, I was very sensitive to rejection. I found it quite hard to stomach, I think.
It can. I mean, you know, it's one of those things. It can still sting sometimes, depending on how much you kind of liked her and how she does it. And you know, like nobody escapes entirely, but you've got to look at it in the bigger picture. Is I'm going out there, I'm taking action, I'm moving towards the goal. Okay, it's not going to happen with that particular girl, but you know, there's billions of them out there. So does it really matter that much? And it's just sort of like, in a cosmic sense, it doesn't mean anything at all.
Yeah, and also we're talking about the early phases here when you've just seen the girl, right? This is all the moment as you're about to approach. So if you're getting really hung up on one rejection, you've completely overthought that one situation. Rejection into the dating process, when you're actually seeing the girl, you sleep with her and she fucks you off for another guy or whatever, that can be painful. That's a bit more weighted. But in the early phases, we're just talking about approaching women. Rejection, it's not that big a deal. You've just got to see it as part of the process. A lot of women are not sexually available. They're not interested. They're not horny that day. Their dogs just died. You look like their ex, and they're just not. They're not down. They're taken, right? So it's nothing personal, really. They're just rejecting your attempt at a conversation. That's all it is. Yeah. And I think men, we massively blow it out of proportion.
Yeah.
Point number 6: attraction women intensify the freeze response. The more attractive she is, the more pressure men feel. This is because they assume she's out of their league. She has endless options. They must impress her. That assumption increases anxiety. So would you say that's correct? And how should men deal with that?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, I think also it feels like there's more on the line somehow, because if she's really, really, again, the closer it gets to one of those genuine DNA tug type situations, then it feels like, okay, this is the chip, everything's really on the line now. It's not just, this isn't just a practice run. This is like, so if I lose out on this.
Up to this point in the universe, the planets are about to collide. This is my moment. That kind of vibe.
Yeah. This is my moment.
Yeah, do you think it's worth? So, do you think it's just any objective, stunning kind of woman, or do you think it's more about your archetype? So, everyone can see probably we'll call her a 9, like a really hot girl. Everyone can kind of see that vibe. But then you've got, say, your type, which is the lesser spotted Magda, quite petite, feminine, blah blah blah. Is that going to trigger you more because it's your specific type, or is it just beautiful?
Yeah, I think it just depends. There are just certain ones who, if she's a very good looking version of the lesser spotted Magda, then that's gonna trigger me more. But you have to somehow realize that actually, or you're doing the same thing, even if she was Mr. M's finest, right? The process, you're walking up to her, you're saying something, she's responding. That process is exactly the same, whether she's a supermodel or whether she's, some girl from Greg's. No disrespect to Greg's, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, so you've just got to do the same actions. It's not inherently worse if she rejects you just because she's really good looking versus if she's somewhere in the middle, right? You're asking yourself to do the same steps, and you're either kind of going to get a yes or you're going to get a no from her in some shape or form, and that's it, really. And just because she's really good looking, who cares? It doesn't make it more important.
Game is the ability to act around a 1 as you would around a 10, a 9 or a 10 as you would do around a 1, isn't it? It's we do get flustered with hot women. It is something that we respond to on a visceral level because we're very visually oriented. And so again, you have to train yourself to just be okay around hot women. I remember going to Russia with you in COVID, and Saturday night out in Moscow in Teleskaya. I'm butchering the pronunciation, but the kind of the Mayfair of Moscow. I mean, it's just wall to wall stunners, isn't it? But within a couple of days, you get used to it, and you're like, oh, because there's so many attractive women, they're not arrogant, they're acting normal, and you're like, oh, this isn't actually that big a deal. But if you've been out about Remit for a bit and you see a smoke show, that does then trigger you. So I think on a broader level, men just need to spend more time around hot women, realize they're not scary, realize it's irrelevant how they look. It's more about their vibe, their personality, but also like most feminine women are the same. They're quite insecure. Some of the hottest girls I've ever met and slept with, have been actually quite insecure. And men, again, we psychologically project just based on how she looks. Like we just assume she's super cool. She must be flying on private jets, banging Kanye, that kind of thing. Sometimes they are, but often they're not. And actually, as we've said before, most women, most people, but also most hot women live pretty fucking mundane, boring lives. So these are all factors I think we need to consider.
Yeah.
Point number 7, missed opportunities create long-term frustration. The real damage isn't rejection. It's the moment afterwards when you think, why didn't I just say something? Men remember missed opportunities far longer than awkward conversations. Are there any that still rack your heart with like, oh, I should have.
I mean, there's a few. I mean, I've got one from
Jesus.
I've got one from it must be like almost 25 years ago.
No, come on, what?
No, I told this one before. I was in Cream in fucking Cream.
Oh, in Liverpool.
In Liverpool, yeah. Because I used to go there quite a lot because I actually had a girlfriend at the time who was a Scouser.
She's Scouser?
Yeah. So I used to go to Cream a lot. I remember one time walking through the club, walking up the staircase, and there was this really, really pretty blonde girl in a red dress standing in the stairwell. And she kind of looked at me, and I think she may have even smiled, but it was one of those definite kind of indicator of interest things. And I still remember it to this day. I didn't do anything. I still remember it to this day. Now, the only fig leaf of an excuse I've really got is because I had a girlfriend. But to be honest, that was on very shaky ground anyway. I could have just done so. I could have just walked up and talked to her, got her phone number, whatever. I didn't. And I've always regretted that. I mean, like I say, I still remember it. It's a couple of decades ago. Unbelievable.
It's crazy, but Tomasi was right. He said rejection is better than regret. It's true. When we take the action, if the girl says no, we just go, okay, we did our thing here, right? But
yeah,
when we see the girl and we don't take action, we know it was her type. And you can't trick your subconscious, can you?
There's another one actually, but again, because I had a girlfriend at the time, I didn't do it, and it was.
Yeah, but these are such flimsy excuses because you're a man that's religiously cheated on women for centuries.
No,
I mean,
not at all, not at all, no more. But no, there was.
It's like the more in a relationship you are, the more prolific you become single. It's like an inverse correlation.
Yeah, but no, I was standing outside the tube station at Leicester Square. And this was not that long ago, actually. This girl came out, and she was, again, it was one of those sort of Magdary type girls. And do you ever get that thing where you meet a girl and you just look at you get eye contact with her, and it feels like you've seen her before? She looks like someone you've met before.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's the sort of some kind of DNA type tug thing. So I look at her, she looks at me. It feels like I was like, do I know you? Felt like one of those. Anyway, and she's wearing this like cute little skirt and all this kind of thing. Anyway, she comes out the tube and she looks at me, and then she looks back and she's with her friend, and she walks up the road. And literally, I was with a friend, and she literally looks back like 3 times. I could easily have gone up, done the classic approach, done the front stop, or like, oh, I couldn't let you go. I saw you checking me out, blah blah blah. Didn't do it, and that was actually genuinely because I was with somebody, and I was like, I don't want to cross the line. Kind of regret it a bit, though, to be honest, because when you see those obvious signals, you feel like you should act on it, really.
100%. And it's again a green flag for what we preach, which is just talk to people throughout the day, because then if you are actively speaking to people, it's way less likely you're going to miss that shot, isn't it? Whereas if you haven't spoken to people and you've almost got negative momentum, it's way harder to take that shot, even if the girl looks at you.
Yeah. So, well, exactly. Now, as it is, I do have the skill set to do something, and probably I should have done something in that situation. I chose not to, whatever, but I've also, when I was younger, been in situations like that where the girl's giving me very obvious signals and I didn't know what to do, or I was like, oh, but I can't approach her because what if she was kind of fooling me and then she rejects me, or what are those people sitting outside that bar going to think, or all of that crap getting into your head. So that's why we teach this stuff, because it's not just, people think it's just about running around after these poor unsuspecting women on Oxford Street and calling them French. But a lot of this stuff is fairly, in real life, is fairly warm approaches. Like, you're in a cafe, she smiles at you, you get eye contact a couple of times. Guys are still frozen. They're still not able to approach. So we're not even talking about cold approach here. We're talking about somebody who's giving you very obvious signals and you don't know what to do with it. That's could you
say arguably it can be harder when the girl's actually checked you out because there's automatically something on the line there?
Well, I mean, I've also been in the situation where she has checked me out, or there's been what I believe to be some kind of indicator of interest, and I've gone in and she has then blown me out. She said, oh, sorry, I've got a boyfriend. Now, it could be that I was misreading the signals. I think probably not, because I'm quite good at reading signals by this point. But it could be that she did momentarily check me out, but actually she has got a boyfriend and she's not going to act on it. So You've always got to be prepared for that eventuality. But if somebody
be okay with that outcome, because ultimately it's just a conversation. It's just kind of like, okay, let's see where this goes.
I mean, our friend Steve Jabber, right? Everyone.
43 minutes in, you did well. You've resisted the temptation to say Stevie Jabber.
Yeah.
For a good 43 minutes.
I think Steve Jabber had a thing at one point where he was basically saying to guys, right, don't bother with cold approach. Just look out for signals of interest and approach on signals of interest.
Sure.
And I felt, I mean, and I know what he means, but I felt at the time that was not great advice, because you're leaving a lot on the table. Because not everyone's going to look at you. Not every woman that you think is attractive is even going to see you, let alone look at you and give you signals. And the other problem with it is that sometimes those signals can lead to nowhere anyway. It's not that just because she gives you indicators of interest, it's a definite green light.
100%.
But more often than not, it probably is a green or an amber light. So you should go for it anyway. But just be prepared that even that may fail. And certainly don't limit yourself to just waiting for signals from them, because otherwise you're not really in the game, are you?
Well, you're not training that social freedom muscle, right? And there's going to be many, many women who just don't see you, who are in a rush, and they just haven't. You're not on their vortex, and you have to take the shot. That's what cold approach is about. But yeah, absolutely. If you get warm opportunities, they're awesome as well. Do everything, right? Any hot girl really you should be at least saying hello to. That should be the acid test, right?
Yeah.
You're not gonna
there are occasionally, though, there are those moments when you see, like with that girl that I described, there are those moments, and it's almost this uncanny thing where your eyes just lock, and it feels like, oh fuck, have we met before? Like, and I've had those situations, quite a few times, and usually it is on, and usually it's mutual as well, because you can almost feel that psychic charge, can't you, in the air?
That's what we're doing it for, isn't it? It's for those ones where you just mutually find each other attractive, and it's just easy. The whole seduction process just flows. You're each other's type, and those are beautiful moments. That's what we're really doing this cold approach stuff for, right? It's just, and when that clicks, it's amazing because you meet people, you just vibe with them, and it's just fantastic. The whole thing,
yeah,
super easy, no game needed. Number 8, surprise, surprise. Confidence comes from repetition. Men who approach regularly stop freezing. Why? Because their brain learns that nothing terrible happens. Conversations are manageable. Attraction isn't mysterious. Confidence is usually the result of exposure, not personality. That's exactly it, right? Exposure therapy. Any approach you think is scary, go and do it 20, 30 times over the space of a few weeks. You start, the body relaxes, the nervous system relaxes. It realizes it's like training a scared animal, scared dog around people, right? You bring in the scared dog 20 times around people, nothing bad happens. The dog learns, or your nervous system learns, oh, okay, we're not going to die. I can relax. And that's that grounded, confident state women pick up on, but it's a trained skill. When we first start doing this, we are not confident at this stuff, right? I remember my first approach on Oxford Street. John Matrix.
John Matrix.
And it was just, I mean, I was so nervous. And the girl actually was, well, literally, she was actually French, wearing a beret. And she went, oh, la, she spoke a Vogue. She went, oh, la, la. And I was like, blah, 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 said my piece. And at the beginning, she was really into it. And afterwards, she wasn't. And I realized I kind of vomited a bit in the shop window, and a bit of kind of vomit was here. So it was cringing in hindsight, but terrifying. I'd say the first 30 approaches I did were very, very scary. But after that, it loses its power of scariness. Now it comes back if you don't approach for a while. It absolutely comes. The fear comes back fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I think fundamentally, after having done it for many years, you do, on some level, know the sky's not going to fall in, and I think that's the fundamental. That's the first hurdle you need to get over. And I think a lot of guys, like this guy I was working with at the weekend, I mean, I don't think had done many, if any, approaches before. So for him, you're right at the start of this. You're literally like, the fight or flight mechanism is in full play. And it's like, fuck, I do this, then the universe is suddenly going to break apart, and there's going to be like, I don't know, it's going to be Armageddon. And of course it just isn't. And I think when you know that on an instinctual level, then even if you're a bit rusty, you can get back into it.
Rusty trombone. I agree. But it's training the nervous system. So repetition is the mother of all confidence builders. And this is any skill set, right? If I said to Troy, right, Troy, you've got to start playing guitar, and you went and had some lessons, in the beginning, you're going to be quite nervous. But after, 6 months, you're going to be like, okay, this isn't a big deal. And then probably if I go, right, now you're performing for us on YouTube. I like the way I'm just setting you up a music career for no reason. Playing some Oasis or some Pink Floyd. The first performance you gave to the millions watching around the world on this live stream, you'd probably be slightly nervous. But if you did that every week for 50 weeks in a row, you're not going to give a fucking monkeys by
lately. I don't ever want to go when your garden grows, because I just want to play.
Is it Songbird? No, what's the title of that one?
We're
not good with titles, but good rendition. I can't wait for you to get out of the guitar and sing that. Play that.
Maybe
and
at the
sing
end of the year
we'll
release an album or like an EP or something.
Quite funny. But anyway, confidence is just situational competence. Any skill set you're not good at, guess what? You do it enough times. When I first started speaking Portuguese, it was awkward, embarrassing.
Yeah, live forever.
All I could say live forever. All I could say was beer, cerveja. Now I can speak Portuguese, but and when I was learning it, speaking it out loud to people, it's a bit cringing. It still can be, but it's not the same level of cringe as when I first started, because your body just gets used to it, and you learn your nervous system. It's all the nervous system. It learns, right? I don't die from this, Point number 9. I believe this is the final one I've written down. Most men never practice this skill. Surprise, surprise, approaching women is a social skill. The clue is in the name. Most men never practice it. They focus on career, fitness, hobby, salsa. What are some other activities clients of ours have focused on to get out of just speaking to women?
Well, there's the whole masculinity thing, isn't there? There's the whole, I go to this masculine workshop where we're going to go into the forest and,
the Mankind Project.
Yeah. What else is there?
I mean, there's all sorts of things. We've had clients that want to do stand-up, Toastmasters, and these are good side hobbies if you're speaking to attractive women, but ultimately nothing is going to move the needle closer to being confident with women than speaking to women.
Well, the classic one is improv classes, isn't it?
Improv, which is fine, but again, why not just go and do improv on the street with an attractive woman, which is essentially approaching women regularly?
Yeah. Yeah.
The nervous system can't relax around hot women unless you're exposed to hot women and actually hitting on hot women.
Yeah.
So even the things like Instagram, which are very good, our man Felipe helps you DM girls, set up modeling events and stuff like this. That's fine to put you around hot women, but still you've got to learn to be around hot women. And the best way we know is, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you view it, is just spend time around women and try and sleep with them.
Yeah.
And fuck it up a lot and be okay with it.
Yeah. And by the way, this is where the dividing line between Durgum and night game becomes less important, because it doesn't really matter. If you're doing this in the evening, you're doing it in bars, that's okay. Even if you're doing it in clubs, that's fine. The whole point is you've got to be out there. You've got to be interacting. You've got to be socializing. You've got to be trying to bring them into your world. So you spend a bit of time with them, go on some dates and kind of figure out what's going on.
100%. They focus on career, fitness, hobbies, and assume dating will somehow sort itself out. And it doesn't, of course.
Yeah.
So if you are watching these streams and you are doing things in aid of getting better with women, we're not saying don't do that. Absolutely go to the gym, build a good body, be in good shape, learn languages. If you're actually interested in salsa because you spend a lot of time in Latin America, go to these classes. But don't rely on these things as ways you're going to get good with women, because it's just certainly not the case. You need to just, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you view it, just spend more time approaching girls.
Well, guys also go to salsa because they assume that in the classes they're going to meet girls and they're going to be able to hook up with girls in the actual class itself, don't they? So
it doesn't. I mean, even one of our coaches, right, Laveau, he's very good at salsa. He's been doing it for years. He's living in the epicenter of salsa, Cali. Even he says, and he goes to loads of salsa classes, it sucks for actually attractive women. There's loads of like average women there, but there's all sorts of issues that come with them. He says that a lot of women that you meet at salsa class are actually quite retarded as well, because they can't really have conversations with people. So they try and that's how they try and meet men, because they're a bit awkward as well. They're like in their bodies and stuff. So it's not the pussy paradise. And that's from the front line. A guy is very, very good at it. In the epicenter of it, knows professional salsa dancers, goes to a lot of these events. He says it's actually not that good.
Yeah.
So there you go. Any parish notices we wish to run through on this fine Tuesday morn?
The public speaking weasel. I think that's probably what they.
That's a great way of summarizing it, though, isn't it? It's true. It's just, let me go and do Toastmasters, climb that ladder for 10 years and not approach a single girl in the process to waste my time. You've got to see this as a game, a video game, and it's a learned skill. And one of the skills is just learning to speak to the opposite sex and relax around them. It's a very worthy skill to learn. That the habits guy, Eddie, works a lot on the nervous system stuff. And we use the analogy, which is very good, of imagine your best mate down the pub or a friend you get on with, or imagine, me talking to Troy here. We're not planning what we're saying. We're just relaxed, we're bantering, we're having fun. Your nervous system is incredibly relaxed. That is the state you can reach around women, right? And who's not going to want to be in that state? Just relaxed, chilled, killing it, right? So picture yourself with a friend down the pub discussing, over a beer, watching the game. You're not filtering, you're having fun, you're in the moment, right? That's the level you can reach being around attractive women, because you just simply train your nervous system through exposure and relax.
Yeah.
So that's a very worthy skill set to learn. And when you put it like that, a lot of guys are like, oh, fuck. So it doesn't have to be the scary thing forever. No, it actually doesn't. You're always going to feel a twinge of, oh, new person. But the more you do this, the more completely relaxed you become, to the point where women will start going to you, oh, you seem quite smooth, or where are the cameras? And it's just your nervous system is relaxed.
Well, actually, over there.
Yeah. The rustling bush through there with Les's cock out. Yeah, that's where the camera is. He's really got to stop doing that. He started exposing himself in public when he's filming, and I had to, man, it's really wrecked a few prison cells.
You know.
Yeah.
All right, this is a good one. I've heard Troy's Thomas Hardy origin story, but where did the Tusk name originate? Was there an Ivory Trade related game scenario?
When I first formed Project Tusk, my competition was South African ivory conservation plants. Like, genuinely speaking, you Google Project Tusk and it had all sorts of elephant tusk. I was watching a show called Black Mirror, and my actual real surname begins with T, but I wanted a stage name. And there was a rapper in one of the episodes in Black Mirror called Tusk. And I thought, that's a good name. Fuck it. Let's go with that.
Okay. And then Peter, the cowman, or the milkman says, only way not to be affected by the cortisol drop from talking to women is to talk to women. Get used to the hormone drop. Well, yeah.
I don't know what he means by that, the hormone drop. But yeah, desensitization. It's the mother of all confidence builders is just repetition, but relaxed repetition. So you're not grinning and bear it. You're kind of like, okay, let's see where this goes. And you're relaxed and you're okay with any outcome.
Yeah. Yeah. Dandy in the underworld. In your opinion, what is the best Scandinavian city for Dögem? I've heard you mention Helsinki in the past. Is it better than Stockholm?
I'm surprised he didn't mention Tallinn. Why didn't he mention Tallinn?
I think Helsinki probably is better. Actually, I'm not a massive fan of Stockholm really. For some reason,
Helsinki's way more fun, isn't it? I'd say the quality is better. The typical kind of Swedish beauty does exist in Stockholm, but Helsinki is just a way more fun place. The Finns are quite a funny race.
Yeah, Finns. Yeah, there's a bit more sort of edge to it somehow. I find the problem I have with these Scandinavian places is they're all very clean and very sort of like, where are all the crack addicted Magdas?
Yeah, they're not really your type. Although I'd say the most beauty of any of them, I'd say Copenhagen's a bit of a dud because Danish tend to be a bit gruff and a bit Germanic and not that fun. Sweden is a bit too polished and pristine, but there are stunners. The dark horse is obviously Oslo because it has incredibly beautiful women and they're extremely promiscuous because they're all really awkward. So if you want to just bang a lot and extremely good looking women, go there.
I've never been there actually. I would quite like to go there at some point. I once met a Norwegian girl actually in China Whites, circling back to the old Cullen Best story. That was back in the day, China Whites, all right, love. And she was absolutely stunning for my type anyway. She was absolutely stunning.
There are some beautiful women. They are. It's not understated. We had one of our former coaches or current coaches who we haven't spoken to at all. Mr. B lives there, Australian guy, and he is constantly sending me photos of women he's hooking up. I mean, they're just next level. The downside is it's just part of the culture. So it's not you being like the anomaly, like just, actually cracking it. It's just they fuck a lot. But if you're a horny young guy, fuck it. Why not go for a weekend or a long weekend? The time to go would be May to August because the weather's good. But our personal recommendation would probably be Helsinki in the summer.
But then we'll get the game purists going, oh, that doesn't count,
Yeah, although it's fascinating, though, because it really is a bang first, get to know each other later culture, which I completely co-sign. I think that's a fantastic idea. Fuck quickly, see if there's actual sexual chemistry, and then get to know each other. That's exactly how it should be done. Yeah. Not the weird Anglosphere vibe we've grown up in, where it's like, oh, let's make sex awkward, and you've got to wait till date 3, and it's just that's not the correct model. So they've got that completely on point.
Yes, indeed. So Calm London Walk says, what's the easier, London or New York or Miami for Dögem? Well, I would say London or New York, probably. And probably for me, and maybe for you, because you're called Calm London Walks, New York might be a bit easier because we're English, and so we've got that, But I would say London or New York are the best. Miami's good as well, actually. Like I've really warmed up to Miami in the past few years because we work with a few clients over there and stuff, and it's actually pretty good. But I would say of the 3, Miami's going to be the harder, and it's less of a naturally day gamey type place.
You're competing with very rich, good-looking dudes. So is it are the women a bit financially jaded, or I mean, just
in Miami?
Well, just because they're used to that. It's a bit like gaming in Mykonos, where every other dude Stavros on his yacht, with his billions. It's like you're competing, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. But there's a lot of Latinas there, and there's a few areas where there's just girls walking around, working in shops, all this kind of thing. Actually, more chilled out than you would think. I mean, they're not all saying, "Oh, you know, yeah, Sneako's taking me out on a yacht later." I mean, it's more down to earth than you would think in some of the
No,
areas.
Sneako's taking me and my boy. Yeah, Sneako's taking me out a yacht later, and I'm gonna get pounded by another dude, and he's gonna watch.
Yeah, yeah.
London. Look, as much as I slag off London, Mr. Francis is still a Londoner through and through, as am I. And it's always, I mean, I had, when I was living there, but when I was too scared to travel, God, the irony now after being homeless for 8 years, traveling the world. But when I was still stuck in the London scene, London was always a lucrative place for dating. It's never been bad. And there's such volume. There's always hot girls, isn't there? It's not like 10 out, it's not like Moscow on a Saturday night, but there's a lot of beauty in London, and there's just sheer volume still, even now. You can't go wrong with it.
So Frogtastic must be new. How do you open the conversation? What do you talk about? Well, you obviously need some coaching, so come and join us.
Coaching. We're not going to go through that basic stuff like that. If you're actually interested to learn this stuff, just send us an email, info@jamestoss.com, troy@realtroyfrance.com, include your WhatsApp number, we'll have a chat.
So this is an interesting one. Santa Fe, Bogota. Always check your surroundings when approaching. Well, check the gender of the person you're approaching as well, I would say. I've had to make a couple of quick getaways there, but the combo of up for it women and the sense of danger gets the heart racing. Well, we went there, didn't we? I've been there we've been there a couple of times.
We have, and that's where I almost got shot in the head as well in one of those bars.
Was it?
Yeah, Santa Fe.
It's the middle of the red light district, so you will meet a lot of up for it women, but they might want some payment for their service.
Payment for their wares.
Yeah. But yeah, it's an interesting area. Is there a cold approach video game? There should be. I can't see that doing very well. Could you in 2026? Can you imagine? Go to one of the big game companies. Yeah, I've got this game. It's based on cold approach.
Well, there was a game, released by Richard Laruna.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
And it actually did quite well. But I mean, you don't need a video game. You just need to go and see yourself as the playable character, and you just get feedback from the universe. Reiterate, get good at this. It's a very rewarding thing once you can get good at it.
Yeah.
And
PA Systems, who's our client, says, "Are you back home yet, man? Even if you're generally relaxed around people, the random nature of day game approach means the opportunities come and go in seconds. So you can't ever rely on feeling ready, relaxed beforehand."
That's true. You're always going to be a bit in the sympathetic state, fight or flight response when you see the girl. I agree. But if you train through muscle memory, relax action taking, and you've got some success, once you're actually in the conversation, it's almost like, okay, you just relax down because you're used to that scenario. So yeah, you're right though. In the beginning, it's always like, oh shit, but that's your body readying you for, not for combat, but for the situation. But once you arrive into the situation, because you've done it hundreds, thousands of times, you kind of relax down into the moment. That will come with time.
Obviously, the answer to approach is to tell her that she reminds you of her mum. Why don't you tell her that she reminds you of your mum?
Yeah, you look like my mum. Could I have your number? Legal automation. Some of these names, I mean, they never.
You know what? Do you know what? You know that whole thing about guys wanting to get with women who look like their mothers or resemble their mothers. There is one ex of mine who does actually look a bit like my mother did. So in my mother and some of her younger photos, and I was looking at that, and I was looking at this Ukrainian girl, funnily enough, and I was looking at her, and I was like, that is a bit close, actually. That's a bit weird.
It's not that we want to get with someone who looks like our mother, but apparently that is something men do subconsciously. It's the old Freudian thing: is you date women who looked like when your mother was younger. That is actually a genuine thing that people are drawn to in a weird, unconscious way. I don't know why. Don't know why. Final thoughts on this, then, just to summarize for those watching around the world who tuned in late. Most men don't struggle with women because they're unattractive. They struggle because they freeze in the one moment that matters, the moment they see someone they want to talk to. So how to apply this? Go out, don't filter yourself, train that social freedom muscle, see people and just say the first thing that comes in your head. Try and make it playful. Don't filter. That will train the nervous system to pull the trigger. And then through time, through exposure to women, through a lot of failure and some success, your nervous system will learn, okay, this doesn't kill us. And then you'll start to relax and be quite grounded. But you are going to feel frantic at the beginning. it's just how it is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got to just train yourself to act in the moment and just when opportunities arise, because actually, like our client said, I mean, that it is quite fast moving. It's fast moving, dynamic. Opportunities will arise, and then you're waiting around, overthinking it for 30 seconds, and then by that time the opportunity is gone. So you do need to try and train yourself to take action quickly.
100%. We will see you again tomorrow when Monsieur Bonaparte, the world's sleaziest sex coach, will be joining us for some baguette-based action.
Yes, teaching you how to actually be good at hiding the sausage. Or how do you say that in French?
I don't know, but the English equivalent is toad in the hole, isn't it? Which we turn into a dish. We've got some really unfortunate names for our food. Spotted dick and custard. I mean, what on earth were they thinking? So
I do like a bit of spotted dick, though.
What is the dick part of this? I mean, it comes in custard, but what's the dick part of that dessert?
I don't know. I don't know why it's called that.
Is it a sponge or?
No, it's like a sponge cake with raisins in it.
Yeah, with custard on.
Yeah.
Spotted dick and custard. Okay, so that's what it looks like. 11 a.m. tomorrow, London time. We will be back on with Mr. Bonaparte talking about all things sex. I think there's a title, but we'll come to it tomorrow.
Indeed. See you later.